So
This meeting is being recorded.
okay, September 11, 2023, SIG Release Nephew.
Yeah, go ahead, Tom, please.
Yeah, so we have a new Nephew experimental Git group. Kenny prepared it with all the permissions and everything. I don't think it has the CLA stuff installed yet. I think we need to kind of kickstart it with some of the thing, at least the CLA, right? I think that's the kind of minimum. And Ashish from Samsung has been asking about contributing their code. So
yeah,
that can be our first chance to really get everything working. I put the question here, should we also move some existing POC repos? And something to decide upon as a group is what we want the preamble to be for every repo. The idea is that every repo in this group will have something like this message at the top. So I hope people can see it on the screen. I'll read it out. Warning, this repository is published by the Nephew authors with a link, but is neither endorsed nor maintained by the Nephew Technical Steering Committee, TSC. It is intended to be used for reference only. The Nephew distribution repositories are located in the Nephew project organization. That's what I came up with.
that sounds good. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if there's no objection, I mean, we could decide this. How do we install the CLA verification hook?
That's the Linux Foundation part.
Oh, okay.
So it's yeah, they have to basically deploy the app for a CLA on this new organization, like they did for Nephew Dash project organization, and I guess it will require their permissions too.
And that hook can be applied for the entire organization, or does it go per repo? Do you know?
It is applied to whole organization, but you can make specific adjustments for repos. So you can exclude repositories from being required to have the CLA signed and so on.
Okay.
Actually, I was kind of doing this GitHub issue stuff. I wanted to enter this one too on the experimental stuff. If you want, probably I can create an issue and assign it to Kenny in the Linux Foundation to do this.
Yeah, I think everything should go through Kenny. I think he made me the made me an admin, but I'm trying to look in the settings here, and I don't see any webhooks or.
There's a way to set up easy CLA, but you probably need something on the easy CLA configuration side of it, so that you probably can't do it all. I would just ask Kenny to do that.
Okay.
On the Bish has his hand raised though, I guess.
No, finish your thoughts.
Well, I was just gonna say yeah, there's a bunch of repos I think we can move there, or so there are a bunch of archived repos
Right.
that we either should move to experimental, or we should even have a third organization, Nephew Archive.
That's a thought.
I'm okay putting it in experimental. They're marked as archived.
Right. I mean, if they're archived, they were experiments that failed. I guess you can think of it that way. Yeah. Yeah, I think 2 orgs would probably be good enough. But you're right. We can play with the idea of archiving repos as well. Yeah, I think
like the one Summit one, right? I archived that. The reason I archived it is because I don't want people going and submitting PRs and things like that.
Right. Yeah, I think a good way to so my thinking is, yeah, we're creating the separate org, but it allows us the ability to treat Nephew project as the distribution, right? So to keep it very clean. So I think that's I mean, already there are a lot of repos, right? So for people to come in and go to that org and look, and they click and they see something is archived, it's just distraction. So I feel like moving things to another org can keep our distro clean, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah, so I would be in favor of moving the archived ones to there as well. Technically, they were experiments, right? The Summit code was an experiment, a POC in a way that didn't survive as such. The functionality moved to other repos.
Yeah. So for
Um,
the historical record,
right.
it's better to leave them archived, not just delete them or something, but to have clean distribution organization. I guess it's a good idea to move it to the experimental and leave it there as archived.
Yeah.
Repository.
What do you
So-
think? Should we also give those repos the same preamble, even though they're archived? I kind of think yes, right? Just to they're archived, so people know they're no longer relevant. Actually, I don't know.
At this point, you can probably move them, but you'd probably have to like unarchive them. Maybe you can unarchive them. I don't know, but it just might be.
Sorry, Vish, are you going to talk about the same issue or is it a separate one? If the
It
same
is
issue,
in this context of this.
okay, go ahead, and I'll ask after you. Yeah.
Oh, my question was like in general. So anything that comes into experimental, I think it's not good. It is assumed that it is not going to be part of the distribution. It is more like we don't probably need to have pro there or anything like that, right? Or any of this probably does not require any changes to our install at this point of time. So anything that gets pushed into experimental will be standalone, which means it's independent. The exact setup steps that someone needs to execute in order for that experimental piece of code to be put into the Nephio sandbox or to the distribution will all be called out, correct?
Yeah,
Is that assumption correct? Or it will have to be figured out along the way?
I think so. In general, my understanding is this: anything that goes to experimental, it's a like Tal put it in a nice thing. They are experiments, they are POCs, they are proposals, whatever, right? So anything that is there, it's not going to be part of the distribution, but has the potential to be a part of the project. So
But
anything that does not have a potential to be in the project, obviously it doesn't need to be there as well.
Okay, so it won't affect the pro config files. It won't impact
Yes,
our
not
CI/CD
in the
initially, all that
production,
stuff.
not in the other one. Yes, we may put the pro in that repo as well, the experimental. That's maybe something to be discussed today. But it should not affect anything related to pro on the production repo side.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I think it should be treated like this is self-contained.
Yeah, it
piece
is as
of software. So if it, for example, if there's change that requires, let's say, change in some KPT packages or whatever, it should be also a part of this code submission and not just a pull request made against the main repo, and then the rest of POC is submitted to experimental. So it kind of like it was with one summit, right? It was like quote unquote installer contained in one repo plus the images you were pulling from whatever. But yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. Go ahead. Sorry.
Probably, I guess we should have like a dedicated wiki page for general handling of the experimental once we agree on certain points, and to have like in the main org page for this to have this information, or like maybe to add this into this preamble that like for any details see wiki page so and so.
Yeah, that's probably a good Good point. So we do have wikis and discussions enabled there, so we could. Oh, but those are per repo. I don't know. That it would mean we would have to create a special kind of experimental core repo.
Yeah, but we have a wiki at nefio.org, so
Oh, that wiki. Okay, not the GitHub wiki.
probably yeah, we can just add the link to every repo to the preamble, just for more information, head on to.
Well, we
So
could
and so.
do a redirect URL. That might be maybe nefio.org/experimental. So we can control that URL, because we don't want to change all those preambles if the URL changes.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
I think, Don, we can do that, right? You did that with something in nefio.org, if I'm not mistaken.
Nefio.io.
Yeah, Linux Foundation can do that for us. I did that with nefio.org/learn. Goes into the wiki onto the learning pages. Then we can
Okay,
redirect that.
so yeah, let me add the preamble. For more information, see. For more information, see.
So when you're typing this, I have a question of moving repos in general. So when we move the repo, say from this org to the experimental org, are we moving the entire history, like all the branches, tags, commits?
Yeah, sure. There's actually a GitHub tool to move repos. So it even does a nice redirect and everything. So if people have links to the old one, it will just go to the new location.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I'm okay with it. I just want to make sure that it's whatever the work that is done, maybe preserved for whatever historical reasons, if at all we need to refer back to anything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, probably the one summit repo link, circulates around a few places over the internet. So yeah, it will do just the automatic redirects. So
Okay,
if in
that's
case
good.
anyone still wants to go there for some reason, it will be available. Yeah.
Okay, I'm writing to Kenny all our requests right now.
So when you're doing that, so the one more thing that I was thinking, probably what is somehow I'm thinking probably Pro should be part of this repo as well.
Yeah, I think so. We're good on the capacity when it comes to the computing power resources. So this, I guess we should run the same checks on whatever's submitted in experimental. First of all, for people to get familiar with our flow, like how we do things in the core organization repos. To get familiar with the process of submitting the code and how it will be verified and so on. And the second hand, to have the licensing vetting checks running. So we're not
copyright.
and we're not putting something that will potentially cause some head scratching in the future. I guess that's.
So I was creating the issue, so that's why I wanted to discuss. So I'm going to create an issue for that repo as well.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Here's an interesting question about licensing. I guess does the CLA? I don't remember. Does it have anything to do with open source licenses, or do we just not care? People can use any open source license they potentially want in their contribution to experimental.
I think the experimental, in my view, it should adhere to the Nefio license, whatever we use, which is Apache Dorado. Otherwise, it's going to be a mess. If at all, that needs to move to the main repo.
Yeah,
Yeah, so Apache and compatible, so the BSD 1, 2, and 3 clause, and something else was there.
Yeah. And by the way, somebody raised the question, I forgot who, about, whether this code will eventually make its way to Nephio. I mean, I don't think we need to have a requirement that code has to go to experimental first necessarily. I mean, if somebody is working on something and we say, hey, this is already part of Nephio, then it can just go right into the Nephio project group.
Yeah, I asked that question.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't really have an incubation process. We don't have this idea of sub projects, or all proposals right now go to the Nephio core. But who knows? In the future, we might want to use this repo as kind of a staging area. This org as a staging area. Start there, and if it's mature enough, then it joins the main group. But I don't even know if we need to do that, right? If we're already approving some sort of process, then it can just go to the main group. Yeah.
I think at one point we should also start kind of take notes on these rules, so we have somehow the rule set over there, maybe on wiki or somewhere. So
yeah, exactly, that wiki page. Yeah. So
yeah,
I asked Kenny already to set that up for us. So we'll have that wiki page, and we can just edit it live with all the things that we want to say about this org. Yeah. Okay. Any other concerns or issues about this? So I guess once we set up the CLA thing, I'll go ahead and create a repo for Ashish from Samsung to put the code in.
Yeah, we also need to put that pro stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm gonna create.
So will that be done by putting the pro stuff? Will be done by Ashish himself? That is where I think we need to be careful about if you have like 10 or 15 experimentals coming in, which I don't at this point of time. We need to plan for it as well.
Yeah, I think pro stuff we would request Radar to set it up.
Well, with pro you can choose if you want for specific repos or organizations. You can choose if you will allow users to use .pro YAML file, so they can manipulate the pro behavior for their repository by themselves, just making changes in this file in repository, or you can keep it central. So I'd say for experimental, we keep it central, and it's gonna be kind of managed by by the people that maintain the CI. So in this way, in case anyone, I'm not saying like a bad actor or something, but in case of mistake, for people that are not really that familiar with how we do things, we won't have to kind of go and verify their configuration or something. Just it will be more by like per request. Okay, if you want to make changes to the CI, message this guy and this guy or something like this. So I guess for experimental repo, all the CI configuration, I think it will be better to leave for us to make changes there.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I say let's cross that bridge when we get there, when we actually have an experimental projects that need CI. I mean, one thing that some of these experimental projects might want to do is actually explore different CIs. I don't know if systems, if somebody would want to do something.
Charles. When we, I think at least my understanding is a CI, we are talking about general pro configuration, which is needed, which is at least to check the licenses, copyrights, headers, things like that, to make sure they are compatible. So we are not talking about, for example, the unit testing coverage, running the integration tests or anything like that, but we are just talking about making sure the licenses are compatible, your dependencies, transient dependencies does not break any assumptions, such as, for example, getting the GPL 2.0, things like that. So, I mean, we are talking about things like that, not really anything to do with your test coverage or running the integration tests.
Yeah, but even for that, I don't think we need to put any rules. I mean, if somebody puts an experimental code that has a license mess, okay, so what? It's unsupported. We're not putting any kind of promises about it. So, I mean, that's part of the point of experiments, right? Somebody might create an experiment that uses some library that's GPL, but they want to just show it as a POC, not necessarily something that's usable. But yeah.
And on the other hand, if it's something that we wanna include at one time in Nephew core, and it's gonna have like not compatible license, and the person who's responsible for this piece of code is no longer available to, I don't know, change the license or just do this kind of stuff. So we basically have to reinvent the wheel or something. So that's one danger I can think of.
Yeah. Well, again, I think let's cross that bridge when we get to it, when we actually have a project like that. I don't think we do quite yet.
So, but I think still from a hygiene perspective, Tal, I think at least we need to check some of the, that's something. Yeah, I'm not sure whether we can completely ignore the copyrights and licenses, even for the experimental, because it's still hosted in the Nephew org. So dependencies, I can understand what you're saying, but at least the copyright of the code itself or the license of the code itself, I have a feeling that we should still need to enforce this compatibility. That's my feeling. It has to, like, it has to have certain headers or certain. That's my feeling. I mean, what do you think? I mean, not when I say you, all of you guys think.
Yeah, Liam has his hand up, but I'm actually disagreeing with you, Bo. I think we don't have to care if it's not distributed, then really let it do whatever it wants. If it does broken things, it does broken things. We're not signing off on anything regarding that code, in terms of licensing or even usability. I mean, it might not even compile. We're not. I don't think we have to care too much.
So
it still will be in a form of warning, not blocking. So the PR can be merged if maintainers decided so, but it will just serve as a warning that okay, you're submitting code that potentially is not compatible with the core and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
I am just on the licensing though. If there's some kind of template or example or even something that doesn't work in there, and somebody takes it and copies it and then uses it, even if if they if that has some sort of copyleft license or whatever, it could just cause problems for people.
Well,
that's
the big warning. Yeah, I agree with that, but I think the whole idea of the warning, the preamble, is that this is for reference. So yeah, there can be lots of problems. We're warning people that this is a problematic repo and use that at your own risk, right?
So
which could be a licensing risk. Right?
Yeah, the reason why I said is, Charles, again, I mean, I agree. I see your point. In a way, I agree to that. But let me tell you why the way I'm coming from. When we put in the code into this repo, it's all with good intention that it is going to move to the main repo at some point. It may not move. That's absolutely fine. It may just get archived in the experimental repo itself. But the whole intention is that that it will move to the main repo at some point. Otherwise, obviously, it doesn't have any purpose in the experimental, right? So why I suggested that is we need to pay the way for any experimental project to move to the main repo. So we need to, if we can set up some guidelines, set up some expectations, then we will make it easier for it to move when the time comes. That's where I was coming from.
Yeah, again, I think not all of these repos have that intention, but those that do, well, when the time comes, then we could install that PROW stuff to help them do the transition, right? If they ask for it.
Yeah, that's true. But the thing is, if the dependencies are, if there is such a, my concern is this, I mean, we have all done software, sometimes if we have a big part of our dependency, and then we have got too far along with it, then replacing it may be a pain. It's kind of easier to do it earlier in the cycle rather than later in the cycle.
Yeah, so we can advise people who want to do that they should install it. But I want to go back to Wim's concern initially when we started this, that he said, this could become a maintenance burden for us to kind of take care of these things. I agree with him, right? The idea, I think, is to make this as low effort for us as possible. So yeah, if we start worrying about what's in there, I mean,
It's
we can't have just people put any repo there. They do have to go through us if they want to contribute code there. But once we give them the green light, we really don't want to babysit it, right? I feel like that's where it becomes painful for us.
What is the green light?
babysit in the sense like it is an automated process, right? I mean, that's where I was coming from. Whether we could warn it, we could block it, whatever. That's where, I mean, it's not like we are going to do it for everything. If it is centralized thing like Rado was suggested in the beginning, it's kind of a one-time process. But with that said, yeah, Vish, you were saying something. Liam also has his hands raised. Go ahead.
I was asking about what is that green light? You know, it is probably some sort of a checklist of items that we check off before we give the green light, right?
Well, I would say that we generally just want to make sure that the code is useful and relevant in some way. But yeah, I mean, so far we have just one contribution, right, from Samsung, and we think it's relevant and useful to have as reference. And it might mature into something more, right? Yeah, I guess as a case-by-case basis, we'll see if we. I mean, this might be the last contribution, right? Who knows?
So as we go along, the green light, the checklist will probably get generated. Okay.
Yeah, just on the license thing, Jennifer. I mean, the Linux Foundation run automatic scans anyway, so you'll spot something, you know, troublesome. So I think it's reasonable to ask people to have it in a, you know, in a, you know, in an Apache license or compatible license, if they want to put stuff in there. And that's really all. That's really the only restriction I think we need to make at this stage.
Yeah, I guess if the license scan is just informational and doesn't block any PRs or commits, then why not? We can just enable it. You know,
there's just information and
yeah. Okay,
yeah,
sure.
it generates a spreadsheet. If it's like the one that's in UNUP, it just generates a spreadsheet once a month, and you know, there's a table in the spreadsheet for problematic stuff. You know, it's just gives you a table, and then you have it. Yeah.
No, yeah. If that's the case, really, yeah, and it is the case, then sure, yeah. Let's add it, and you know, contributors can ignore it if they want, and it gives information. Also, it can help people who want to maybe use one of these repos for whatever reason. It will tell them, you know, if there's a license risk.
Yeah, that was exactly my point. Just, you know, in case of anyone then comes screaming, we will have, you know, logs. Okay, we were saying it's not compatible. You know, don't look at us. And,
yeah. I think that's right. That's good information to have. Sure.
It will in the way this can become a burden if we're doing like security scans, and then who's chasing people to, you know, bump the library versions or something. So I understand the Vim's point from this perspective, but this is really like, you know, fire and forget. Requires like zero effort later on. It will just, as you say, we'll just leave it to the person who's contributing the code as a you know, possible information to use, but not really a blocker to.
Yeah,
we also don't want to, you know, scare people away from submitting whatever the ideas they want to.
All good points. I would add though in the wiki too that we're providing that information as a courtesy. It's not like real auditing of licensing. We're not lawyers or anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, I can take care of communicating with Kenny on this and update the Slack channel on any progress, and yeah, I can handle moving the repos and helping Ashish with creating a repo there too, right? I'll keep everybody in the loop on Slack just to make sure that I'm you don't think I'm doing anything weird. So yeah, I think we can move forward.
So I was thinking also, I was in the process of creating issues too. We can just track it there as well.
Yeah,
if you'd like.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great.
Thanks. Yeah.
Okay. If you're done, I just have, this is going to be a short one. Rado, since you're here, one of the things I noticed was that most of the PR that gets pushed automatically as an approve by the owner. So by the PR owner, is it something that we can remove? That whatever
Yeah.
tag?
That's configurable.
Okay.
So it might be set in this way that if the repo owner is pushing, it will still require approval. Still, this person can approve it manually, but it won't be automatical.
Yeah. If we can remove that automatic approve, that'll be great. That way, it doesn't get just merged immediately. So.
Yeah, I mean, it will still need the LGTM, right? But it's for some, for better auditing or just we can disable this. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Thank you. That's it. I don't have anything else.
All right. I think we might be done for today.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to update is I was creating different epics for different technical depths, and we identified like obviously the bugs. The one which we're already working on CI/CD documentation. I'm creating epics for those. Probably those things will appear in our board for our Wednesday's meeting. I think probably we can track things from them from Wednesday onwards. In like the way we did for the first release. So anything else from anyone? Any other topics?
Nothing from my side. No.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Thank you all.
Cool. Thanks, Vish.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Cool. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
So thank
All
you.
right.
Have a good one.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.